Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. It is Wednesday. We made it to Wednesday. We have 2 streams today, guys. We have one later tonight. Yikes. I should get it ready. Huh? Today, though, I did have to speed the video up for us to watch it to fit it into one live stream. That way we don't go over and we don't have to split it up into 2 live streams. I'm telling Emily. I'm calling Emily right now and waking her up. Michael, you're right, and I'm wrong, and I'm sorry. So, remember, guys, they're not going to talk about it at all, but this is a divorce hearing. We're going to hear only child issues, custody issues, crazy, guys. This child is out of control. These parents are out of control. Everybody is out of control. And all we're going to hear about is mostly one child. But it's a divorce hearing. So, what's going to happen is we're going to go through the divorce hearing, and then they're going to figure out the child custody stuff later. Not too much later, though. And you'll see why. And don't worry. I'll get the next hearing. Don't worry. I will. Maria's here. Maria's here as shut-in. Hi, Maria. I'm on live chat, so I don't know if it's working or not on top chat. I just don't know. I wonder how many comments are going to get eaten today. Bill, how do I fix that? Hey, Bill, can you use your powers with YouTube and fix my chat so everybody's comments stop getting eaten? Alright, guys, it is in Bill's hands now. So if your comments get eaten, please complain to Bill. I'll give you his cell phone number. Alright, guys, we gotta get started because this is 2 hours long. Here we go. And yeah, Bren, you asked yesterday for that title. Okay, the title you asked for was a little different. I didn't have the heart to actually just put a title that says Bren is an asshole. I just didn't. I couldn't do it. So I had to make it a question. And one of the people already texted me and said we should do a poll. But I'm not going to, because we already know the answer. Here we go. I gotta press play. I gotta get to work.
Requesting 2 things. One, it was also predicated upon the fact that until just recently, this was set for 2 hours, and now it's 3 hours. But the order that had been issued previously stated that either party could request a bifurcation if 60 days had passed, and the court would give it consideration. I filed the motion, again, believing that there was only 2 hours and not 3 hours. I still don't believe we'll get done within 3 hours today. And asking if the court would contemplate, as it stated in its order, allowing the parties to be dissolved, their marriage to be dissolved. And in addition to that, given the nature of some of the petitions that have been filed that are so exigent in nature pertaining to Nile, I was hoping that we could address those matters first, given the fact that, there's been violent acts, jail time, at least JDC, I should say, and a whole lot of issues at school where the child is missing at least 20 days, probably more. Ms. Wood will be able to tell us. And so I was centering more on the urgency of those matters, Judge. Also, with the fact that some of these issues obviously have been festering for 10 years, and we have like things such as child support and things like that. You can only imagine.
They've been trying to get divorced for 10 years, guys. You think they'll get divorced today? Hi, Margaret.
If retroactivity is sought, how that's a Herculean effort in and of itself, given the period of time that has gone by. So I ask the court to grant this particular motion and address the most serious of the issues and allow both of these parties to be divorced. I know that I believe, based on my communication with both parties, that they would not, that they would certainly agree to getting divorced. I never heard back from petitioner in regards to the matter pertaining to denial, mostly pertaining to legal custody at this time.
Let's go to Mom. I haven't seen the motion. I think the previous order was your motion for bifurcation to be able to get divorced. Do you have an objection to what they're asking for today?
To bifurcate? No.
Okay.
Yeah, this,
Because I haven't seen his motion, so.
I have a copy of it if you want.
So I'll get it from staff on a break. But as far as if you've seen it, you do not have an objection to it.
No, I've
Okay.
been going through a divorce longer than I was actually married, so.
I understand.
Try to get it done.
Okay. What else, Mr. Watson?
So I just for clarification, so we'll be addressing that and the motions as it pertains.
Certainly, Mom says she has no objection to it.
Okay. Also, one other matter, Judge. Jackie Pilar, who represents Self School, is here on behalf with Erica Wood, the vice principal of Self, and she has to be somewhere at 10:45 today. I'm asking that if we could somehow squeeze her in before she has to go.
We can take her first.
Okay.
Any other preliminary issues?
I guess I would just ask, based on that, how are we going to? Is she going to present her evidence after I take Miss Wood, or is?
Well, we're here today on a motion that was filed by, I think you, correct?
One was by me, one was by petitioner, and then one was.
Well, just give me what timing, because there's so many motions in this, I really don't know.
Okay, fair enough, Your Honor.
Mom is pro se.
I believe August 8th, 2024 was the first motion. But then there was another motion we filed for January 23rd, 2026. We also filed another motion on 3/6, and that was a joint motion with the Guardian Line.
And the testimony from the school, which motion does that pertain to?
That would be pertaining to the.
You notice, guys? Martha's all over the place when they say joint motion. She's like, what? Hi.
The modified legal custody to January 23rd, 2026, Judge. I'm sorry, the 8/8/20, the one that was filed petition for emergency temporary modification of custody and parenting time, Judge, that was filed on 8/8/2024. So what we're here today addressing, in my estimation, based on the bifurcation, is the 1/23/2026, the emergency petition to modify legal custody filed by father, and the joint supplemental emergency petition to modify legal custody.
But really what they're here for today is the divorce. That's what they're here for today.
My mother also filed a motion, petition on February 4th, 2026, and hers was to modify custody. But as we're speaking to the issue of legal custody today,
I don't really care who goes first. It's all the same issue to me. I can sort that out. I don't want to waste another 10 minutes talking about who goes first. Let's get your witness that you have to get out of here on, and then we can move forward.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Who are you calling first?
I'll call Erica Wood, Your Honor.
And where is she?
She is waiting to be let in.
Is Ms. Pilar still on?
It says that they'll admit me when they're ready. Ms. Pilar is not on, but she's here in the room.
Okay, that's all I need to know, that Ms. Pilar is there and able to hear. Ms. Pilar, you can hear me?
I can, but I'm in the waiting room. It says the host will admit me when they're
All
ready.
right, let's get you back in here.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, Ms. Pilar, you are here in representing the school, is that correct?
I am, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Ms. Collins, you can hear me okay?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I can hear you.
All right, and you're here as the guardian ad litem, correct?
Correct.
All right. Ms. Woody, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay, thank you. Could you please state your name for the record again, Ms. Wood?
My name is Erica Wood.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed at Self School for Porter County Education Services. I am the assistant principal.
Okay. And how long have you worked there in that profession?
This is my second year as administrator here.
Okay. And how long have you worked in the profession overall?
In education, I have worked in education for 27 years.
And what kind of credentials or education do you need to serve in this capacity?
Well, right now I hold a bachelor's in science in education for special education with our intense population and physical disabilities. And I have a master's in applied behavior analysis. And you have to have your master's in this because it's a special education facility.
I'm sorry, please. Okay, were you done there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So could you describe like Self, what is the school? What is its purpose? What is its mission?
Self is, we have two areas of Self. In the back area, we have a therapeutic day treatment center, and that's where Niall attends. It's called the Success Program. And in the front area, we hold students. We have autism classrooms, applied skills classrooms, and intense needs classrooms. And we house all the students through Porter County districts come here according to their IEP and have deemed that this is the appropriate placement for them. And many of the times it's based on behavior or extreme medical needs.
Okay. And for what reason is Niall there?
Niall is here due to the number of suspensions that he had while he was attended Portage schools, and his behaviors were extreme. And we met, we had an IEP meeting, and we all thought it was, the case conference committee determined it was the most appropriate placement for him was to be at Self School in the Success Program.
Seriously though, extreme is an extreme understatement of what's going on with this kid.
Okay. And what exactly is a Success Program?
It's a therapeutic day treatment center. That's where he is. We have a lower elementary class, an upper elementary class, a middle school class, and a high school class. And most students have a disability of emotional disability or other health impairment. So that is their eligibility for most of theirs in that program. We have, I'm not sure what else you need to know about it.
No, I think that's sufficient. So, but Niall is in the upper class, is that correct?
Yes, he is in the upper elementary classroom.
Okay. And so what's the distribution of students to adults typically in those classrooms?
In his classroom, there are 13 students, and there are 2 paras and 1 teacher. And out of those 13 students, about 6 of them, I believe, 6 of them are transitioning between homeschools. So they go half a day or part-time to their homeschools as well.
Okay. Is Niall a full-time student?
Niall is a full-time student, yes.
Do you know approximately when Niall started itself?
His enrollment date was November 5th, I believe.
Of 2025?
Yes, of 2025, yes.
So how would you describe Niall's time itself?
Niall's time itself. Niall is a very quiet student. He doesn't really talk to me a whole lot. I'm more involved when the behaviors start happening. But he's essentially he's a good student in the classroom. He will listen. He is not necessarily a leader in the school. He's more a follower and will follow the other kids. He does have, a lot of the times, Niall has been in trouble due to elopement issues outside the building and eloping outside in unsafe areas, like down the street.
So when you say elopement, you mean just leaving campus or leaving an area that he should be in?
Yes, leaving the area or leaving the actual campus area. More times than not, he has left the campus area where he has gone down the street and then police have been involved.
What has been your interaction with Niall's father?
Niall's father will call. He'll ask for records. I've talked to him the times when Niall's been suspended or had issues in class, and he will call me and we talk. Or if he has any issues or any complaints, concerns, he's always free to call me.
Okay.
But our conversations have been just about Niall. What can he do? How can he help?
Okay. Have you had interactions with him when there's been any kind of intervention with law enforcement?
Yes, there was one time where when law enforcement was involved. I can't remember exactly what those interactions were. It was kind of a crisis situation, and he came towards the end of it, and Niall was being detained.
When Niall was first admitted to the school, did you meet with the parents or did you meet just with Bob?
When he was admitted in the school, when he gets admitted in the school, there's a case conference committee, that a team that meets as a whole. So that would be the Portage teachers, the Portage special ed director, a representative from Self School, not necessarily me, and the parents. So no, I don't remember meeting them when he first came to Self School, but I remember when he came.
Okay. But Niall's had more than a few issues there at the school. Would you consider that to be accurate?
Yes.
Do you know how many times he's been suspended?
He's been suspended 7 times.
Okay. Since November of 2025?
Yes.
Brent, how many times are you suspended from school? Martha, you've been a Prime member for 7 months. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Martha, listen. Martha has a subscription on Twitch because she has an Amazon Prime account, and once a month you can use your Amazon Prime account and subscribe to one channel on Twitch for free. And if you do that, you can watch the live stream with no ads. I mean, if you don't have a YouTube Premium account and you see ads while you're watching my live stream, if you just use your Amazon Prime account and watch it on Twitch instead, you won't get any ads. Now, I'm not asking you to watch it on Twitch. I don't care if you will go to Twitch or YouTube, but if you don't want to see ads and it'll be helpful for you, you can watch it on Twitch. Both of the chats are right on screen, so you can see what's going on.
And was there a suspension recently on or around February 23rd of this year?
No, we did not suspend Niall. We referred him to the crisis center.
My coffee is pulling up right now.
You did not suspend him. You referred him to the crisis center.
Yes.
But there was an incident that led to that referral.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember that incident?
Yes.
Okay. Could you briefly describe what occurred on that particular day?
Sure. Niall and another student were outside in the hallway talking to each other. A para was accompanied them. They were out on a break, and there was some kind of commotion with another student intervened. So him and his peer were separated, and they went into, there's many areas in the back area. So they went in through a double door, and the peer that he was with asked if he could speak to a preferred adult. So another adult came to get that peer, so he could speak to the preferred adult. So once the other student was away from him, Niall escalated,
Right back.
and he tried to get through several double doors leading to outside or in a different area, trying to get to the peer. He made several statements that he was going to hurt. He threatened to strike, like pull back his fist and attempt to hit. He shoved a para to the ground when he was trying to get out a door. He shoved me when I was holding another door, and he punched staff member in the arm while they were blocking doors. And during a hold, he hit another para in the face. We did have to end up, due to the severity of it, we had to transport him into a seclusion room. While he was in the seclusion room, there's a window. We were observing him, and within about a minute of him being, I don't even think it was a minute of being in that seclusion room, he attempted to take his throat, his neck, and push it against the corner of the wall in the seclusion area, trying to choke himself. And then that's when we immediately came in there, blocked him from doing that. When we blocked him to do that, he tried to take his shirt and choke himself with his shirt. We blocked him from doing that. When we blocked him that, he tried to take his hands and choke and wrap them around his neck and squeeze that way. And then we ended up finally putting him in a 2-person hold, called the police and paramedics to check him out. And waited and had him in a hold until the police arrived. When the police arrived, we were able to let go of the hold, and the police ended up talking to Niall.
Okay. After the police talked it out, where was he taken?
He was taken by his mom. His mom was called before the incident with the self-harm because he was threatening the staff. So she was called before, so she was already on her way to the school. And she came right after, I believe, the officer arrived. She came, we talked to her, told her the situation. She said that he does this for attention, referring to the self-harm.
Okay.
And we said that we were referring him to the crisis center. We asked if he wanted to go by ambulance or she wanted to take him, and she said she would take him to the crisis center. We let her know that our Porter Stark staff was writing up the report, and it would be ready at the crisis center when he got there.
And what was the result of that evaluation?
They did say that he was an imminent threat to himself and others, and suggested and told them that he needed to be in inpatient services, a behavioral inpatient treatment.
And this was through Porter Stark?
Yes.
Okay. And was he put in that particular, well, first let me ask, inpatient services, what would this entail in Niall's circumstances?
Well, I can't really speak on what they do in the inpatient centers. I could only say what I have known, just that they go there. I don't know whether they would adjust his meds. I don't know whether he would talk to somebody there or be in group therapy.
How long of a duration of time are they usually in?
It can average anywhere between, I'd say, a week to 21 days. I've seen it happen more, so.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, was he entered into those services?
No, the next morning, I always get a letter in my mailbox from the crisis center saying their recommendations, and it did say that he was a risk to himself and others, and he was not. We talked to the Porter Stark staff, and they said that he was refused to do inpatient. Not he did, but parent did, mom.
Mother did, correct?
Yes.
Mom refused inpatient many times.
And this happened on 2/23. Has he been to school since that time?
No.
Okay. I know that they've been trying to get a divorce for 11 years now. I'm pretty sure the child was born before they started trying to get the divorce. So we can definitely assume the child's over 13 years old.
Do you know approximately how many days he's missed as a result of that?
Well, he's missed from 223 till we had a meeting right before spring break with Dad that he is to be a virtual student and do have access to his courses online and completing them at home until we reassess on April 20th. So we were trying to come up with a safety plan for him to return to school.
Sometimes I'm honorary Aussie, and then sometimes I'm not worthy. But I don't know the rules about when and when. So I guess today I'm in. I'm one of the cool kids, guys.
Certainly. But he hasn't returned to school as of this date.
No, he would need a medical clearance to come back to school.
Okay. And that medical clearance would require, what would that require exactly? What would
That would require a doctor saying that he is no longer, like a psychiatrist, that he is no longer a threat to himself or others, and he is safe to come back. And usually they provide a safety plan to the schools.
Okay. And has that happened at all?
No.
Okay. Have you spoken to mother at all about inpatient care?
Well, we don't recommend it either way. This is the parents' decision. So we did talk to her me and Principal Rogers talked to her on February 24th and asked her, what happened, what's going on. And she said that going to inpatient was not an option, and he has already been there 3 times to an inpatient center, and it has not changed anything.
If Niall would have gone to inpatient care and then received a release that he was safe to go back to school, would he be in school after that time?
Yes. As soon as he's discharged from an inpatient care, he comes back to school.
Okay. So due to mother's denial, he hasn't been in school.
Yes.
Okay. And it's your understanding that the medical professional's recommendation was that he had served some type of inpatient care set.
It wasn't my understanding. They did say that he needed to go. That's what was their recommendation according to the paperwork.
Okay. And you've already stated that you met with father on 3/19 about putting him in a virtual assignments online.
Yes.
Okay. And that would entail some kind of weekly check-ins on Friday.
Yes, a weekly check-in on Friday. I can't remember what time it was. It was before 2:00, I believe, where he checks in with the teacher and asks about any homework, or, initially it will just be to make some rapport with the teacher again.
I provided a couple documents. I didn't know how we were going to go in terms of order in this. There's a document, it's an IEP meeting notes and participants, and has an exhibit sticker.
I'm sorry, I don't have my count up to look at it. I apologize. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Do you recognize that particular document?
This is the IEP meeting notes. Yes, 3/19/26. Yep.
Yes. And there's some additional documentation as well. That center around the 2/23 incident as well. And that, are you familiar with those documents?
Yes, if I sent them, I'm familiar with them.
Okay. Judge, do we letters or numbers? I always forget.
Your letters.
Some might. Not all of them will.
Good job.
Okay.
See what's been tentatively marked as exhibit A for respondent.
Marmite is sweet because Vegemite is definitely not sweet. It's very salty.
Where does it say?
And I moved to mid-runner.
No, he's
Ms. Collins, have you received a copy of this previously?
gonna call it eight.
I don't know which one that is.
This hasn't been provided to you as an exhibit prior to the case proceeding today?
Not as an exhibit. It may or may not be something I reviewed in my investigation, but I don't know.
We
Not
only,
looking at it.
we only got these yesterday, Judge.
She can't be in denial totally because they have to keep calling the cops. So,
Okay. Let me ask Mom, have you seen a copy of this before?
This one, this one here, no.
All right. Do we need to take a recess so a copy can be presented to Ms. Collins and Mom can review it?
If that's what's necessary, Judge. Yeah.
Well, I don't think they can speak to an objection, whether they have an objection or not, if they haven't seen the document, is my point. So we'll take a brief recess. Ms. Collins will make sure this gets emailed to you, and Mom, you can take a chance to look this over during the recess.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I apologize. Ms. Wood, are IEPs typically sent to both parents?
Yes.
All right. And I had asked you earlier about attendance. There is now what should be marked as Respondent's Exhibit B. Deb, you've seen that document?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
You may.
No, move to it.
There's been a motion to admit Exhibit B. Any objection from Mom?
No.
Any objection, Ms. Collins?
No.
B is admitted.
Thank you. So, Ms. Wood, now that you have this in front of you, how many days has Niall been out? What is, I guess, can you explain what is an AU, what is an OSS, and what is a AE?
Yes. First, I want to apologize that there's a couple of things that I've noted that I saw that were supposed to be OSS instead of AE, which means excused. We are kind of new to our new Skyward system, and we were putting the things in, and it didn't create an absence for that. Usually when we put in an OSS, that means out of school suspension.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
no, you're fine. So on 11/19, 11/18, 11/19, and 11/20, he had OSS, which is out of school suspension.
I can tell you firmly, Mom does not blame Dad for all of it. Because she also blames the guardian ad litem, she blames the school, she blames the police, she blames everybody, anybody. She's blaming you right now, B. She's blaming you.
And what are AUs?
AUs are absence unexcused, so that's whether or not we know if a parent has contacted us. If a parent has not contacted us, there's no explanation why the student is gone. It's unexcused. Usually, if a parent contacts us, lets the office know that they're sick, they have a cold, we'll make it absence excused. But unexcused is we don't know. Nobody's contacted us.
Okay. And it was sometime around late January when Miss Reyna took possession of Niall. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm unsure of the date.
Okay. Does 121 sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of these other ones would have taken place on her watch at that time?
Yes.
Did I move to admit Exhibit B, Your Honor?
It's already been admitted.
Okay, thank you. So that's a considerable amount of absences. Would you agree with
Oh,
that
yeah.
statement?
Yes,
Okay. And the vast majority of these are resulting from the incident from 223.
yes. So after from 224 on are the ones that resulted from the incident of 223.
And so, again, the only thing that was standing in the way of him returning is getting medical clearance. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And receiving some sort of inpatient treatment?
Correct. Or, yeah, medical clearance from a psychiatrist.
Okay. And there was another incident that occurred around 121. Is that correct? Where a staff member was injured?
Yes.
Did you recall
Thank you for the cheers, Monica. Thank you. Thank you.
that incident?
Yes.
Could you take me through that?
Yeah, there was, it was towards the end of the day, and Niall was eloping around, running around the building. He went to go out one of the side doors, and he was prevented from going out by a building sub and another administrator. And then I was called down there, and when I got there, Niall was already in a hold by the two staff members. He was he threw his backpack at one of the staff members. He attempted to hit staff members. He said he was going to his mom's. He was trying to get out the door. And the staff all know, because there's a pattern of him eloping into unsafe areas outside the building, we block any access we can to the outside when he's not supervised and escalated.
So he made threats to the staff?
He made threats to the staff. He was hitting the staff, and then he kept on hitting the staff when he was in the hold.
Did he make any reference to firearms?
Yes, he said that he knows where the guns are kept, and he is going to get a gun and shoot them.
And so as a result of that, he was put into JDC?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Since we spoke, there was an incident on 330. Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't know how many times he's threatened to shoot up the school, but it's often.
Since we've talked, do you have any more information on that?
Yes, we did a threat assessment on that. There was a parent that called and claimed that her student was afraid to come to school because Niall had made a threatening statement via text to the student and said that if he doesn't join the meet, he is going to crack him. And so we called that parent, talked to me and Ms. Rogers, our principal, and then we called, we had to talk to Niall. We called Mr. Reyna, and he informed us that Niall was not there to call mom. We did call mom, and we were attempting to speak to Niall about what happened. Mom looked through the phone to see, or the tablet, to see what Niall was saying, and it was like videos back and forth of joining a Google Meet. And she did see the text where he said, join the meet or I'm going to crack you. When we asked Niall about it, he was kind of quiet, but he did make some utterances, and he said joke, referring to that it was a joke to the other student. But the other student did not come to school because he was scared, but we couldn't tell the student that, of course, that Niall was not here.
So obviously the students or the parents saw it as a threat.
Yes. The mom referred to, she said that it is a running joke to say, like, we're going to crack you, just some household jokes that dad uses in reference to mess around, just talk to the kids. So that's why Niall said it was a joke.
In the email conversation that I had, or interaction that I had with the petitioner in this action, she had mentioned that she was looking into potentially having Niall attend Discovery in Chesterton.
Mhm.
Does that school have the same safeguards and protections and benefits and services that South has?
I cannot speak on that school. All I know is that school is a public school, even though it's a charter school, but it's still considered a public school. And it has students with general education and IEPs there. But he is, according to his current placement on his IEP, he is in a special education, a segregated special education facility. And that is, he is not on the continuum of special education to be placed at a public school. It would be the equivalent of going to his home school in Portage.
At the Ellsworth School?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So over your 27 years of experience, they probably would not accept him in that school based on that designation?
Once they have his IEP in hand, they would not, because they would see it's a different placement than what they have.
Okay, so you testified earlier that you've spoken with father and then later you've spoken with mother, but about having him do classes from home.
Yes.
Okay. But until those thresholds, which we've gone over ad nauseum, are actually completed, he will not be allowed to return to the school?
Correct. We're trying to work with the family to create a safety plan. Like we said, we have the best interests of the child. We don't want him to be away from school for so long. That's why we held a meeting with that was requested, and on the meeting on, was it 3/19, we said that he will do the Inventum courses and the Exact Path courses online and do weekly check-ins with the teacher, and then just reevaluate it on April 20th to see how he's doing in that and the progress that he's making.
And
but essentially, yes, we would want a medical release for him to come to school by a mental health professional.
okay. And mother was not in attendance for that meeting?
No, the teacher of record is the one that invites them, and I believe she sent an invite to mom.
Okay, but only father was there.
Correct.
He's not allowed to go there anymore. Because he was really bad and threatened everybody and hurt a bunch of people, including her. And the police were called. So they said he's not allowed back in until he gets a medical assessment by a psychiatrist. And they did an eval, and they recommended that he go into inpatient, and mom said no. So he's not allowed back in school until he's done his inpatient.
Hey, based on your conversations with father, is it your understanding that he would be receptive to adhering to the recommendations from medical professionals as it pertains to in-person admission.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. You've had conversations with father, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your understanding that he would be receptive to adhering to the recommendations of the medical professionals in regard to Niall being admitted to in-person?
To inpatient?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, inpatient.
Yes. Yes,
Sorry.
I believe he would.
Okay. And mother would not.
What she told us, she said no.
No further questions from this witness.
Mom, do you have any questions for this witness?
For Miss Woods, I guess not so much, questions, I guess just to clarify. Niall
Spiders
was
don't
released
bother
from
me.
JDC on January 28th.
Is this a question for Ms. Wood or?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you have on here, well, obviously the 28th he wasn't there, but on the 29th you have him absent, the 30th you have him absent. But why is he marked absent when he was at school every single day that I've had him, outside of him being suspended?
If he is marked unexcused, and he was in JDC, that is a clerical error, and we can get that fixed. And that is, what days was he in JDC?
He was in JDC from the 21st and he was released on the 28th. So then I brought him to school, then the next day, which was the 29th, and you have him down as absent, and the 30th.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Woods? Ms. Wood, sorry.
Thank you, V. Thank you.
You know, 1 second. And then also too on the 18th, 20th, and then the 24th, which was a day that he went for that evaluation. Why is he put down as unexcused absent when he was at
I think he was put down as absent because he wasn't in school those days. But that's just what I think.
school?
What day was this?
The 218, 220, and 224. No, I'm sorry, 224, he wasn't there because he went for the evaluation on the 23rd. So then the 18th and 20th, you have him down there as unexcused when he was at school.
He was at school on the 18th and the 20th?
Yeah, and I will never miss school since he's been with me.
Okay. I know on the 19th, which is not there, he had OSS. He had out of school suspension on the 19th. On the 20th, I'm not sure about, and the 18th, I am not sure about either. I'll have to check up on those.
The 19th is not even on here. But yeah, I was just looking at his attendance and just, looking at it, it's not correct. Because I know Niall hasn't missed any days since he's been with me. But that was my main thing, was with that.
Do you have any other questions for Ms. Wood?
No.
Ms. Collins, do you have any questions for Ms. Wood?
It's just a few, Your Honor. Ms. Wood, just as a general matter, can you explain to the court kind of what happens when you say Niall escalates? What changes with his behavior?
He starts to hit, he starts to threaten to kill himself. He makes threatening statements about bringing guns to school, killing staff members. And then the last one that he usually does, and it usually ends with his threats of self-harm and then attempts to harm himself.
Was the incident that you testified to about in February, was that a larger incident for Niall when he had made some threats and attempts to kill himself?
Yes, he made attempts to, many of the incidences with Niall have been large.
I think when you and I discussed that incident, there was also some attempt where he had a hoodie on and he had tried to wrap the hoodie around his neck or something.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And just for clarity for the court, is it your understanding that Niall was living with father most of his time at the SELF program, at least until the JDC release sometime in January?
Yes.
And then in January, he went to stay with mom. Is that correct? To your knowledge?
To my knowledge, if that's when he went, that's when he went.
And so I guess my point is it fair to say he's had behavioral issues in both mom's care and dad's care over the
Yes.
last year?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any questions, Mr. Watson?
None, Your Honor.
Any other questions, Mom? No. All right. Thank you, Ms. Wood. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thank you too.
Lacey, we all knew what you meant, so you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Mr. Watson, next witness. I'm going to just let the parties and Ms. Collins know at 10:30, which is 9 minutes from now, I have to take a quick couple-minute recess because I have to deal with a murder trial that's possibly going to happen or not happen, so I need 5 minutes.
I cut it out because it's boring. It was just motions, scheduling, nothing interesting happened.
On a hearing, so I'm going to have to interrupt this one to do that one.
I'll get the murder
Okay.
trial. Do not worry. I'll get that.
I would call Miss Collins, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Collins, if you raise your right hand. Do you
He's been trying to get this murder trial going for so long now. And they keep coming back and they keep asking for continuances and all this and all that. One of these days he's going to do it.
swear or affirm under the penalties of
Or he's going to plead and we won't ever get to see it.
perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Collins, could you please just state your name for the record, please?
Rebecca Collins?
And what is you're serving as the capacity of GAL in this case?
Correct.
Just as an approximation, how many cases have you served as GAL?
I have a couple issues with this guardian ad litem. Just normally I'm 100% fully behind all GALs because their job is so hard. But there's a couple things I wish she would have done.
I haven't kept count. I'd say probably over 50.
Okay. And how long have you been involved in this particular case?
I think I started as a GAO on this case back in 2019. So I had filed my third report last summer.
And your last report was filed on June of 2025. Is that accurate?
Sounds correct?
But despite that, you kind of kept current with the events that have happened after that date.
Correct.
I don't know what have you had contact with father?
Yes.
Have you had contact with mother?
Limited. I would say not anything substantial.
Have you had contact with Porter Stark and self?
Yes.
That was the first problem. She doesn't really have any contact with mother.
In your last report, Judge, if I may really quick, is this particular individual or any individual here going to be appearing as a witness?
I don't know.
I don't
There was the motion for separation of witnesses.
know. But ask for a motion for separation of witnesses.
I think it's a little late at this point, but I will grant it. Do you intend on calling anybody as a witness that's in the courtroom today?
No.
Okay, you will not be allowed to now after that.
Okay.
So there's been a motion for separation of witnesses, which occurred 1 hour and 25 minutes into the hearing. It's granted at this point, so anybody that listens to any future testimony will not be able to testify in this matter.
Someone else had come in, too. So.
She's an attorney waiting for the murder case.
Okay. I did not know that.
Okay.
In your report, you
Stomp them.
you spoke to certain issues in regard to what had occurred in New York.
That is correct.
Okay. And you remember the allegations of that particular report?
Yes.
And did these events occur at or around June 2024? Late June 2024?
I think it was late July 2024, early August.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I believe that to be accurate. Thank you. And did you speak to Kings County DCS?
So in New York, there was a DCS report of abuse when the children were in mom's care on a vacation in New York. I did make attempts to communicate with DCS. They would not speak to me. However, I did review their assessment and ultimately substantiation of abuse.
Okay, so there was a substantiation of abuse found out of that Hicks County court?
Yes.
And did you find those credible, the allegations?
I did. I will say I also talked to all 3 children about what happened in New York, as well as mom and dad.
And did the children corroborate the story?
They did.
And just in summary, I think you gave me like about 3 sentences in summary. What story did they corroborate?
So mom had the kids, like I said, on vacation in New York. She was visiting her boyfriend at that time. His name's Terrence. Niall was having an episode, as the parties say. He was sort of having a meltdown. I can't remember what it was about. He wanted something he didn't get. And they were in a vehicle at that time. I believe mom's friend was also with and had somewhat became aggressive with Niall. Niall was sort of triggered, becoming unbearable. They came to Terrence's house, and essentially what the boys had told me, and which was in line with the DCS report, was that Terrence had sort of dragged Niall out of the vehicle, dragged him into the house, kicking, screaming, fighting. Mom had asked that the other boys stay outside. I think she went and got the other boys like some ice cream or something, and Niall was left with Terrence. Terrence had hit Niall multiple times with a belt on his legs, I think the side of his stomach, if I remember, caused quite a bit of extensive bruising on him. And that I want to say was on a Sunday. Dad wasn't contacted at that time. I think a day or 2 passed, and then Noah had actually contacted Dad on Snapchat, sent Dad photographs of Niall's bruising. Dad had then made a call, I believe, to DCS in New York. They came out, talked to the kids, got everybody's story, and ultimately the kids were detained in New York, and Dad was contacted to come and pick them up.
Based on what you've read, and do you believe that do you believe the petitioner was aware of what happened?
Okay, Tulani, sorry, the petitioner, I have to check. I do. I think, yeah, I don't know how she wouldn't have known. I mean, she initially had told DCS that she felt Niall had the bruising before the trip to New York. It was extensive bruising, to be honest. I just don't know how you would not have known that your child has that bruising. Not to mention it doesn't align with Noah's statements that he made in Snapchat to Dad, which I reviewed. The kids were very upset. It was a pretty traumatic thing for them. They were excited, like, there's a lot of emotions going on. So I don't think it was something that happened before the trip to New York. However, that was her statements to DCS. I will say when mom came in and talked to me during our interview, she acknowledged that Terrence did hit Niall. She just said she wasn't aware of it at that time, that like a couple days had passed, and then she became aware of it when DCS showed up at the house. So again, I mean, it did change a little bit, but I just don't find it to be accurate, to be honest, because the kids were pretty traumatized by it. They reached out to Dad about it, and I mean, she kept the other 2 outside when Niall went inside. And I've been on this kid a really, really long time. And I mentioned before in previous reports, I had some concerns about Terrence's discipline of the kids. So this isn't anything really surprising.
Okay, so you've been involved with Mr. Polite before?
He's been around before. It was one of my first or second report that I had discussed his discipline tactics with the kids because the kids were expressing that they were not comfortable with him.
What is your understanding with what happened to Mr. Polite in regard to this instance?
He had several criminal charges that stemmed out of it. I did see the counts. I'm not sure. I think he pled to some of them, but I can't tell you exactly which ones were dropped and which ones he pled to.
What do you think about Kalani's judgment to allow the children to be around Mr. Polite?
She should sort of know that if he was criminally charged for this or anything, she should sort of know that.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not, I'm not saying she should not have allowed the children around him. I think maybe it would have been appropriate to take more precautions. And if you know that he was angered, that he was dragging Niall into the house, maybe you should have went inside the house to monitor the situation a little bit, given the past history. But I'm not saying that. I'm not faulting her for allowing contact with him.
I'm just trying to imagine for a second how I would react. It would not be, I would go buy ice cream. That's probably not how I would react. But if a boyfriend of mine attempted to lay a hand on one of my children, I would definitely not take two of them away, leave one alone, and get them ice cream. I would probably have a slightly different reaction, and the police would be involved.
Judge,
We're going to take a recess.
Right.
So, Ms.
Or my bestie. I'm either calling my bestie to hide the body, or the police will be involved.
Collins, we're going to take a brief recess, and we're going to take care of this murder case continuance, and then we'll be back. Hopefully it'll take 5 minutes so that we can get it done. Okay, so just please hang around.
Will do.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah, sure.
me.
You guys can
would be
leave your
the
stuff spread
murder
out.
suspect.
We're just going to have the prosecutor via Zoom and have Ms. Comine here, and hopefully
He cut the feed there, but it's okay because we didn't need to see the murder case. It was kind of boring. And then I left this big gap in here. It's not paused. I just am bad at editing. I just lost my mouse, so I can't fast forward it. My mouse doesn't work. I give up, guys. I give up. Come on. The video stopped and my mouse isn't working.
Changes in custody, some through court, some mostly voluntarily between the parties.
There we go.
So as far as dad's parenting with the kids, he's not perfect. I definitely think both parties have things they need to work on. Dad does tend to be pretty hands-on with the kids. When they went to live with him, he sort of started getting them enrolled in services. He started Nile through Porter Stark. They started attending Porter Schools, which is in Dad's district. He's been a big advocate for getting Nile an IEP. He tends to attend pretty much all of his meetings. He's pretty much been an advocate for trying to manage medication adjustments as needed. When Nile has had big episodes, he does contact the right people. He shows up. He does call police often. I think Andy has a very hands-on approach that we need professional involvement. We need to follow medical advice. If they're recommending inpatient, then that's what we need to do. I do think sometimes he gets overwhelmed with the kids' behaviors, particularly Niles. All the children have some behavioral issues. Niles are just escalated. And I told Andy this, and I put it in my report. Sometimes he gets a little hands-on with them. And I know sometimes he's had to physically restrain Nile, which I understand. Sometimes there's a little bit too much aggression in the house.
But with all these things that father has done, and to try with Niall, and with the other children if need be, but it seems like he's participating regularly. Is that?
She's saying the father beats the kids too. The father gets hands-on with the kids. Now, you actually have to get hands-on with Niles because he goes and grabs a kitchen knife if you don't. So, but you can restrain and not beat, is what she's saying.
Is that?
I would say that's accurate.
Okay.
And I love tiny hands, just so you know. Love them. I love tiny hands on anything.
Would you also say that he believes that he's trying to set them up for success in the future?
Yes.
Okay. How, in the same vein, how would you describe Tawani's methodology of dealing with the kids?
So I would say from what I've noticed, she wants best for her kids as well. I know both parties love their kids a lot, okay? But she tends to I think, keep things a little bit more behind closed doors with Niall. She tries not to involve police, not to contact the crisis center, not to talk about things. I think for Tulani, the idea of Niall being inpatient has been very hard for her. She is very much opposed to it. She does not want that for her child. And I can understand as a parent why that hurts your heart. But I think my main concern with Tulani is that Niall has some extreme issues, like very, very extreme. And when he's threatening to hurt himself.
See, this is another thing that I don't like about the guardian ad litem. Like, that is not mom's reason at all for saying no to inpatient treatment. She's saying no to inpatient treatment because she has already put the child into mental health facilities 3 times before, and it didn't do anything, and it didn't work. She's wrong. Mom's wrong. I know this. You know, but I'm just trying to tell you why she's saying what she's saying, and the fact that the guardian ad litem doesn't know that is crazy to me, because mom is shouting it. Like, it's not hard to find this answer from mom, because she says it loud and clear many times.
Or threatening to kill teachers or kill other students. You need professional intervention. And I think Tulani's not been receptive to that.
No, I don't think so, because she just said that she doesn't like the way that dad spanks the children, beats the children. She doesn't like that. But she's definitely on dad's side right now, 100%. Hi, Jude.
And so, as I stated, or as you stated earlier, that you kind of been keeping up to date on some of these issues that have happened post your guardian ad litem report. Are you aware of the incident in regards to February 23rd?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have the opportunity to speak with Self about it?
Spoke with Ms. Wood, who testified.
Yes.
I have no idea why you guys are so focused on the child when this is a divorce hearing, just to see if they're going to get divorced.
And was you heard her testimony, was that your basic understanding of what occurred?
Yes.
Okay. And
thick and spreadable.
And based on
yes.
Also your investigation and what has been detailed to you, that the medical advice of Porter Stark was that it would be inpatient, was the recommendation for Niall?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that that did or didn't occur?
That did not occur.
And what is the reasoning that did not occur?
Tulani did not consent.
Okay. And based on what you've just said prior, you believe that it would be in the best interest of the child for Niall to receive that type of treatment?
Yeah, I've been very clear with the parties. I am not a doctor. I don't know what's best, but my advice in general has been they need to follow the medical professionals. And if that was recommended by Porter Stark. I guess I do want to add, we had another prior admission or attempted admission for Niall at Michiana Behavioral Health back in April. That was a big incident, and Dad did admit Niall at Michiana Behavioral Health, which at that time was recommended by Niall's counselor, by Porter Stark, and I believe by the school. And Mom went and withdrew him out from Michiana Behavioral Health against medical advice. So it's been an ongoing issue for well over a year, where Niall has an episode, is having a meltdown, is detained, and he either ends up at the JDC facility or the crisis center, and they want to admit him, and Mom won't consent.
So currently the parties have joint legal custody, which has been the bane of the existence of Niall and his health. Is it still your recommendation that my client receive sole legal custody of Niall and the other children as well?
Yes, at this time I would recommend the dad have sole legal custody.
Okay. And based on your understanding of and extensive exposure to the two parties, do you believe that they could communicate in a way that they could ever or have demonstrated that they could operate on a joint legal basis?
No, I have no doubt, given the history, this has been one of the most confrontational, high conflict GAL cases that I've had, if not probably the top three. And they don't get along. And it is almost as if what one parent wants to do, the other parent will deliberately not do. And the kids are stuck in the middle of it. They honestly struggle to see which parent is telling the truth, which parent is lying, and they struggle with it. And they have behavioral issues because of it. And these parties just cannot get along. And I just want to say, and when I did my second report in 2023, I had recommended at that time shared physical custody with mom having sole legal custody, because one party needs to have legal custody for these kids. They just don't agree. I had made some other recommendations that now have a psychiatric evaluation at that time. And mom didn't follow through with that. And she didn't maintain even shared custody. She let the kids go live with dad in 2023 and stay with dad for over a year before the incident happened in New York. So to me, she really didn't take initiative to keep sole legal custody and to get a handle on Niall's issues. So I'm at the point that I did recommend that dad have sole legal.
So, would you agree with the statement that the quicker that my client receives sole legal custody, the better off the kids will be?
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, I would hope so. I do think with dad having sole legal, the difference is that if the medical professionals are recommending inpatient, dad's going to consent to inpatient, and that gives them an opportunity to let Niall be observed, to put him on a suicide watch, to manage his medication adjustments that need to happen, and to get him back into school. So I think dad is capable.
So the other two, and I cannot remember their names, the other two children also have issues. They also have behavioral issues, and they act out too. However, Niles is so bad that what they do is like nothing compared to him. So they're focused on him because he is extreme.
Doing that where mom's not at this time.
Okay. I pass the witness, Judge.
Huh.
Okay. Do you know how many times Niall has been in a mental health facility?
As in like an inpatient center?
Yeah, correct.
Well, there's Michiana Behavioral Health in April, and then he went to Harsha and Terre Haute at some point too. So two that I'm aware of.
He's been 3. He went to Harsha again. He got released around, I want to say it was around last Thanksgiving. Have you had conversations with Niall's therapist and with Innovations in Learning?
I've had conversations with his therapist.
And have you talked to, I think her name, Dr. Halls at Innovations in Learning?
I have not spoken to her, no.
You should have. You're the guardian ad litem. You really should have.
Okay. And then obviously we're talking to the kid's therapist, especially pertaining to Niall. Did she make a recommendation as far as Niall being an inpatient?
She's given 2 different recommendations. It depends on the time. Back in April, when he was taking the Michiana Behavioral Health, she was a large advocate and very firm that he needed to be inpatient and recommended it. She, during this last incident in February, she did not recommend inpatient. So 2 different.
So mom takes him to a therapist, and the therapist does not recommend inpatient again with Niles. So that's another reason mom is saying no. I'm not saying I agree with her. I'm just saying that's another reason why mom is like, no, we're not doing it again.
Different recommendations depending on the time you're referring to.
Well, just any time. Are you aware as far as how I was notified when Niall was going to these mental health facilities?
I do know that when Dad put him in Michiana Behavioral Health, he did not include your information on the intake form. I was able to get a copy and review that. So I don't think you were notified when Niall was admitted. I think Dad waited, I want to say about 24 hours before you were notified by email, which is, I think, how you two frequently communicate.
Right. Since you were, what's the word, appointed, I guess, to our case, this was October of 2018. So since October of 2018, by the time you started doing your reports, things like that, do you remember how many home visits that you had with me and the kids?
No. I usually do one per report. I know this last one, since 2025. I will say this to the court. I don't have concerns about your homes. Both parties maintain really clean, really nice homes. The kids have
Guardian ad litem didn't do any home visits. I mean, I have a problem with that.
sufficient space. So I didn't feel like going to the house again. And I think I had this conversation with both of you during the initial interviews again, that home visits were not going to be particularly helpful. To be quite honest, I focused a lot of this last go around on contacting the professionals, because I get very different sides of the story, whether I'm talking to you or Dad. And it's like black and white.
But you didn't talk to all the professionals.
As far as how I'm notified? You said that's
No,
fine?
as far as what's causing the issues for the kids, who's at fault, blaming each other, just very different sides of the story between which parent you're speaking with.
I gotcha. Are you aware of, and this is just the home period, as far as how many times the police have been called to his residence within the last year?
I don't know the total amount, but I know it's a lot.
22. And that's just at the home. And you said that you had told me to have Niall have a mental health evaluation. Is that what you said?
I had put it in my 2023 report that he should undergo a psychological evaluation at that time, and that the party should follow any recommendations from that evaluation.
Okay, Niall has had a mental health evaluation.
I'm not sure what your question is, but I know he was evaluated in December of 2025, and I did get a copy of that report from Dad too. So I know he's had evaluations since then.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think in the beginning it just ended up being, I think, an insurance issue. But kind of going back to the New York incident, are you aware of the outcome of that whole case?
The DCS case or the criminal case for Terrence?
All of it.
Yeah, not the criminal case. I don't know what ultimately stemmed at that, but the DCS case, I'm aware that they substantiated Dad was contacted. You had an interview with DCS in New York, and ultimately the children were returned to Dad's care and brought back from New York.
Right. And so then during that time, are you aware that of the amount of time that I went without seeing the boys?
Yep. There was a period of time when Dad came back from New York. He kept the children from you. I think it was the month of August, and I want to say a few weeks into September.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, if you're a parent of the child and the other parent has a partner that's beating them, leaving bruises, no, they don't get the kids anymore. Someone has to protect them.
A month and a half, yeah. But even with me not being involved or the person being accused or anything within that case, you still agree that the kids should have been kept from me?
I never suggested that the children be kept from you, and I would not have agreed with that.
Okay.
In fact, I think at that time, Dad was seeking some type of restricted or supervised parenting time. There were some motions that were filed, and I had made it clear to both of you that the kids needed to resume their regular parenting time with you.
When it comes to Niall's, not Niall's, Niall's therapist, Natalie, when it comes to her, because I want to say it was December of 24, I want to say, parenting time changed. And it was because of a recommendation by you. Is that correct? Because I think it was my Wednesday overnights.
So parenting times changed several times, but prior to New York, my understanding from both of you was that the kids were living with dad, you were exercising every other weekend, and for the most part, you guys were agreeing on holiday parenting time, and you always divided the summers equally. Then after New York, dad withheld the children, you went to court, I want to say it was around December. We had an issue. Parenting time had already resumed at that point in time. I think dad had followed my recommendations to resume the parenting time, but then the issue became Wednesday overnights because you started then exercising Wednesday parenting time that you had not previously exercised prior to New York and wanted Wednesday overnights. So I had testified during those proceedings about the Wednesday overnights.
Your testimony, though, at that time was you had said that Natalie made the recommendation that I lose my Wednesday overnights.
Judge,
correct?
I'm going to object to relevance here. We're addressing the joint legal and legal custody at this time.
Overruled. I'm going to allow it. I mean, this case is drug on forever, and we're trying to get through it and get it done. I think she's talking about attacking Ms. Collins' recommendation overall. I don't think we're talking about makeup time or anything else. Unless if that's what we're talking about, then I don't want to go there. But if you're just going overall on the recommendation of Ms. Collins, then you can proceed.
Yeah, just overall, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think I said Natalie suggested no Wednesday overnights. I think the issue was if you could get the kids to school on time the next day. And at that time, you weren't really participating in therapy, so you didn't have contact with Natalie. So I don't think Natalie really had anything to add about your parenting time. It was just making sure that you would be able to get them to school on time.
She wasn't talking about Natalie, ma'am. She was talking about you and your recommendation. That answer had nothing to do with the question, but that's okay. It's fine.
No, that doesn't make, okay, that's, okay.
That's right, ma'am. This is a divorce case only, guys, not a child custody case. We're not going to hear an answer to child custody today.
I have no more questions right now.
Ms. Collins, or let me first go back to, I guess, Mr. Watson. Do you have any redirect?
I do not.
Ms. Collins, anything you want to add or testify to?
Rebecca, your hair is lovely. It's gorgeous.
Since you are the GAL in this matter.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it really brief, Your Honor. I have been notified of a lot of incidents after my report was filed, and most of these do come from dad. I think mom's kind of stopped contacting me, to be honest, after my last report. She reached out, I think in February, because she actually received an invoice by email, and she said, what was it for? And I said, I interviewed Vinny, who was with Porter Stark, and I said, please let me know, your side of the story, what's going on, and I haven't heard from her since then. But I've really tried to talk to the professionals here because, as I said, I get very different stories from mom and dad, and that's kind of always been the case. They do not co-parent well. They don't get along at all. They can't agree on anything. And the kids are getting pulled between mom and dad. I think they've been exposed to a lot of conversations about this case. They've known about court hearings coming up. They've told me, mom will say this, dad will say this. And you could just see in their mind, like they struggle which parent to believe. Mom's the one that had told them about the court hearing before, so that caused me a little bit of concern. But the kids have changed stories a lot over the time that I've known them. There are times that they want to live with mom. There's times they want to live with dad. I think it's often dictated by which parent's giving them the least resistance at that time, which one's giving them what they want. I do know that there are times that, like I said, Dad tends to be a little hands-on with them. I've recommended stop the physical violence. I know he has to physically restrain Niall at times, and I understand that for safety reasons, but I think there's too much violence going on at times. And then in comparison, Mom almost does the opposite from what I've seen, where she kind of just walks away and thinks that Niall needs to just calm down, which isn't helpful either when he's grabbing sharp objects or threatening to kill people. So their approaches are extremely opposite. I do think overall, I tried to give Mom a chance in 2023 and recommend that she should have sole legal, because at that time she really was taking initiative and handling most of the appointments for the kids. But I felt like when Mom didn't get what she wanted, because at that time she wanted the kids to go to St. Stan's in Michigan City, and St. Stan's had made it very clear that they did not want the kids, they did not feel they were equipped to handle Niall's behaviors at that time, that I recommended a change in school to Porter County because there would be more services in place. She then just let the kids live with Dad. So it kind of showed me that she did not want to maintain physical custody and sole legal custody. She didn't want to, I think it was because she didn't want to get them to school in Portage, which, I mean, I get it's a burden, but ultimately the kids went to live with Dad sometime in 2023, and they were exclusively there. The other thing I really thought about a lot that I just want the court to know of is during that whole time period, like 2023, maybe August through 2024, we didn't have litigation. The parties weren't going back and forth. They weren't fighting every day. Niall did not have near the issues that he has right now. He's always had issues since a toddler, but not to the extent that they have right now. So the parties were able to somewhat function for a year. It really was after the New York incident that things escalated and have not stopped since that point in time. So,
And just let me ask so that I'm clear. You're saying you recommended to Mom that the kids go to school in Portage, but then when she let them go to stay with Dad to go to school in Portage, you thought that was odd or strange wasn't that what you just recommended, or did I hear that wrong?
well, I had recommended they have shared physical custody, but that the kids go to school in Portage.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Mom kind of just let them move in with Dad's house, and she had parenting time every other weekend.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Watson, based on the testimony of I keep wanting to say Ms. Berg, I'm sorry, Ms. Collins.
No, Your Honor, I think she actually she answered a couple of the questions that I had.
Mom, any other questions?
Are you aware of how many times Xavier's been suspended?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount, no.
I'm sorry?
I could not tell you the exact amount, no.
Another strike against the guardian ad litem. 7 times. He's been suspended 7 times. Since 2025,
Okay.
I think.
And are you also aware of the kids' grades?
I've seen multiple grading reports over the years. As it stands today, I don't know what their current grades are.
Okay.
Not just criminal,
Right, that's-
Nan. Like, scary. Scary. Like, he's not set up to, shoplift.
Anything else, Ms. Collins?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Watson, next witness.
I'd briefly call Vinny Lopez, Your Honor. You still there?
Mr. Lopez, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Savage.
Yes, sir. If you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You put your hand down. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you prefer Vinny or Vincent?
Vinny is fine.
Vinny, what is your particular job description?
So I am a home-based case manager.
Okay. And what does that involve exactly?
So I provide case management and skills and training development services. I help build social skills, daily living skills, improve family functioning, obtain further services, things like that.
And how did you come to be involved with the Reyna household?
I think this guy is the most professional adult in the room.
So I was recommended services through his in-school support, Katie Keene, at the time.
Okay. And did father also reach out to you?
Father reached out to me after I sent a initial contact to provide services, and we had a meeting on the 5th of February, 2025 to begin services.
I'm sorry, what date was that? I apologize.
February 5th, 2025.
And so how often do you go to the home of, you go to father's home, correct?
Yes, I go to father's home. I've also met with mom in the community. I just don't go to mom's home because she's in LaPorte County. And I try to meet with Niall at least twice a week. Sometimes there's things that come up, but the goal is to meet with him twice a week.
Okay. And you just try to address certain concerns and behaviors?
Correct.
Okay. And wraparound services, what are those exactly?
The wraparound services, they take an approach to strengthen the family as a whole. So they have goals within wraparound. Some of the goals are the family mission, life mission, and areas that they want to strengthen. And they meet once a month within wraparound, and they try to obtain services that may benefit the client further or work on strategies between the parents as a whole. So mom and dad both attend those meetings.
Are you aware of Niall not being permitted to go back to self? Are you aware
Yes.
of that? Yeah. Were you involved in that at all?
I wasn't involved in any of the decision making for him to not return to self.
Okay. But you're aware of what the recommendations were?
Correct.
Okay. And so are you working with him sort of in regard to that as well, with what led to him not being able to go back to self and the behaviors that might have brought that about?
Correct. Yeah. So I'm working with him on trying to regulate his emotions, utilize coping skills when necessary, recognize his triggers, and things like that occur at school and also at home.
Okay. And how long have you been employed where you're at?
I have been employed since November of 2024.
One of the notes I have in here is that one of the tasks that you tried to do is getting mom and dad to cooperate together. How does that work?
So one of the strategies I have towards trying to improve that relationship in parenting strategies is putting together team meetings. So we've had 2 team meetings in total where all service providers and both parents come to a table and we try to coordinate, what are the best strategies to provide for the client. I think with having other service providers, myself and both parents, it kind of limits opinions that one parent may have towards the other and then come to like a certain goal that everybody agrees upon. So some of those goals that we have worked on is, implementing things inside of the home, such as, like green zone, red zone, yellow zone, things like that for Niall to communicate his emotions through visual, because he has trouble communicating his emotions. So trying to implement something familiar in both parents' home, that, is similar. So that's not, when he goes to mom's house, it's not different than when he goes to dad's house on how he can communicate his feelings.
So you, in the year and a half that you've been involved with them, you've had multiple sessions with them, with Niall?
Correct.
Okay. And have there been any incidents that led to law enforcement being involved or concerns over Niall's safety?
Yes.
Okay. And what could you give me an example of one of those instances?
Yeah, sure. So one of the examples of those instances is, there's been a few different ones, so I guess I'll just pick one. But the first one that really led to a police intervention, I had came over to the house to have a regular session as wanted, and Niall didn't want to communicate with me. He didn't want to have the session, so I gave him about 10, 15 minutes to kind of, because sometimes, they'll come forward after a couple minutes of relaxing and spending time in his room. So we waited a little bit. I was downstairs just talking to dad about things going on within Niall's behaviors, and Niall comes down the stairs and he, starts cursing, making an attempt to elope from the house. When he eloped from the house, he walked outside. He was standing in the front yard, and I kind of went there to just check on him. Dad stayed inside. Niall was making threats of, wanting to kill himself, stating he was walking to mom's house. Niall began to walk down Stone Avenue, which is a busy street outside of Andy's home, to make an attempt to walk to Michigan City, which is a reach. And so I followed him. I stayed with him on the side because of the threats he was making towards wanting to harm himself. He was standing over the curb into the street, making threats to run into the street. Cars were swerving. In fact, the only reason he stepped away from the street was because someone that was driving nearby told him to get the F out of the street. So Niall returned back to the sidewalk. Couldn't get Niall to turn back home. We ended up walking almost a mile and a half away from the house before police intervention was needed, because refusal to come back, and then multiple threats to either run inside of the road or make threats about wanting to kill himself or his dad. So that was probably our first kind of session where police intervention was needed. I guess, is that kind of what you're asking, or do you want me to go further into?
Well, what was the result of that after when police intervention was needed? What occurred?
So the police were able to return Niall home at that time, in which mobile crisis was also notified through Porter Stark. And mobile crisis was at the house when police had returned Niall back in the home. Niall did give the police a hard time, but the police got him back to the house successfully. Niall ran inside of the house straight to his bedroom and kind of put his hand down. I had somebody there with me at the time who was training and shadowing me. She was occupying the other two brothers, trying to keep everybody calm within the home. And I was outside talking to mobile crisis, and then my colleague who went inside and talked to Niall to try to de-escalate him and bring him to come to communicate with us. Niall ended up coming outside. He had calmed himself down with my colleague had told him that if he could come outside and communicate with the mobile crisis team, that he would then get rewarded with a snack. So Niall came down to talk to the mobile crisis team, didn't show any signs of stress or making any threats, and then it led to mobile crisis not making any recommendations towards a medical evaluation or further police intervention. Then Niall was able to return back into his father's home.
Okay. So it was a successful encounter.
Correct.
There was another incident that happened at the home as well.
Yes.
Yeah. That we had discussed. Could you state approximately when that was and what occurred during that time?
Yeah. So this was around Thanksgiving is the time frame, because he got hospitalized right before Thanksgiving and was let loose before Thanksgiving. So it was within that time frame. And when I got to the house, Niall was already escalated. He was already upset due to things going on within the home prior. When I got there, he was pacing around the house. He didn't want anything to do with me. He didn't want to communicate about anything going on. I tried to implement some de-escalation techniques, try to get him to sit down and talk to me about what was going on. He was pacing around the house, paid me no attention, was running outside, threatening to throw rocks at the windows. He was pacing around the house, talking about he wanted to beat up his brothers. Andy had to come downstairs and pull his twin brother into his bedroom, where then Niall started to bang on the door and threatened to hurt his brother if they opened it. After that, I got Niall to come outside with me, because I wanted to remove him from the situation as a whole, because every time he heard a noise or seen his brothers, it further triggered him. So once I got Niall outside, he again started to make the threats of walking away, going to his mom's house. I had already kind of discussed with mom, strategies that worked at her home, such as leaving him be, kind of keeping an eye on him, make sure he's safe, but not feeding into it, not walking behind him, because then he'll walk further away, which Niall, as he got further away and realized I wasn't walking right behind him, he would turn around and kind of check to see what I was doing. Niall would then come back to the home, go back inside of the house, and things kind of started to spiral from there. He was making threats of wanting to kill himself, leaning himself out of his top bedroom. Second floor is where his bedroom is, so he was hanging outside of his window. Andy then came and intervened to help me, get him out of the window. So grabbed him from the window so he couldn't make a fall. And then he was in his room after that. Andy went back to his bedroom, shut the door with his son in there. And I was sitting in there trying to, again, just de-escalate him, talk to him. He wasn't making any threats towards me, so I didn't feel like my safety was in any way being harmed. So Niall was sitting in his bedroom, and, a couple minutes goes by. He's screaming at people from his bedroom. He continues to make attempts to kind of go after his other brother, who is in his other bedroom, right? So Noah is with dad, Xavier is in his bedroom, and then Niall is in his bedroom. Niall tries to make an attempt to go into Xavier's bedroom to, further escalate Xavier, trying to get him to get into a fight. I stood in between them, didn't have to lay my hands on anyone or, put anybody in a hole, just kind of stood in between them. Niall continued to make threats. At that point, Xavier said something back to him. I don't recall exactly what was said, but it was something like, "Leave me alone," or "Please get away from me," or something along those lines. Niall then went down the stairs to the kitchen and grabbed a kitchen knife, I was still upstairs at the time, and I went to the top of the stairs where he was at the bottom holding the knife, saying, not saying much, just kind of looking at us with a certain look. Like, at that time, I made it be known that Niall had a knife. Andy then came and, assisted and intervened and took the knife away from Niall, and then which I called the police, and police came, took Niall to the hospital to have a medical evaluation.
Okay. And what was the result of that evaluation?
So he went to the hospital, had an evaluation, was recommended inpatient services. Andy sat at the hospital, I want to say, for quite a long time. It was overnight. I ended up staying with the other two boys for the time being until Andy's girlfriend was able to come by and take over assistance. And I want to say that I'm not 100% sure this one, because there's been multiple times where Niall has needed a medical evaluation, but I'm almost positive that during this time, transportation was the issue. So they could not find transportation to then take Niall to the inpatient place that he was accepted at.
Were you involved with them when Mother had signed the AMA in regards to Michiana behavioral?
I was involved with the family, yes.
Okay. And it was your opinion and the opinion of your superiors that Niall should have some inpatient treatment?
I do not make any opinions. I don't have the judgment to make those calls, but it was a doctor's opinion for that to be necessary, yes.
Guys, he was joking.
And this event took place at Father's home, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You're not typically at Mother's home, correct?
I've never been at Mother's home, only because of her being in LaPorte County. I can't provide services outside of Porter or Stark County.
So when Mother says that these kind of incidents don't happen at her home, you would have no idea of knowing that one way or the other.
Correct.
I'll pass the witness.
Mom, do you have any questions for this witness?
Hey, Vinny. The one incident that you were talking about, we brought up Niall having the knife. Do you remember when that was?
I don't remember the exact date, but I have it written down. I don't know if I'm allowed to utilize notes within this court hearing.
You are. Just
Okay. Was that? Do you know if that incident was before or after the boys initially went to JDC last?
It was after.
It was after. Okay. So then at that point, that's what, two or three incidences that I can think of where Niall has had access to knives and such.
The one that I was there, I know that there was knives out.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say that again.
No, it's okay. I said the one time that I was there were knives out. I was not there when Andy got stabbed in the leg or the other time that you're referring to.
Okay. And then you are aware that from Niall's what's it called, his safety plan or whatever, is that all sharp objects, all weapons are supposed to be out of the home?
Correct. Or at least hidden from him.
Right. How has your visits been with Niall since since the beginning of this year? I guess I should say.
Well, since the removal of him being at self, I have had a lot of improvements within my sessions with Niall. Typically, you or Andy have been present in those sessions, so that could be a factor into it, helping him communicate his feelings a little bit more. And they were in office and not at home. So Niall has improved a little bit on communicating his feelings. For example, in the past, most of the time I bring up something that had happened within that week or day, he would put his head down and kind of refuse to further communicate with me whenever something negative got brought up. But recently, since the beginning of the new year and his removal from self, there has been improvements with him communicating about things that have occurred.
Okay. Do And do you communicate regularly with the boys' therapist, Natalie?
I've communicated with her numerous times. Usually when things come about, such as residential talk or things occurring within home that have been pretty persistent. I've talked to Natalie, I want to say at least 6 times, probably monthly.
Okay. Given, let me think how I'm going to phrase this. Well, first question, do you know when Niall started services at Porter Stark?
I don't know the date that Niall started services as a whole. I know he started services with me on February 5th, 2025.
Okay.
But I do know he's
Good
been
job,
involved with
sir.
Porter Stark longer than that because he was getting services from Katie Keene at school.
Right, right. Now, given that the times, especially when Niall is escalated, given those times where you have called me for help in settling him down or whatever the case may be, has any
He's definitely out of the shower. I kicked him out because every time I got in there with him, he kept screaming, "Ay, papi!"
of the things I suggested to you, have they worked with him?
Yes. For example, when he had walked away from the house and we kind of just kept an eye on him, but also didn't interact with him fully, such as following him, continuously asking him to abide by what I'm asking for. That has worked as far as that session I was just giving an example of. I mean, he walked away and I watched and I kept an eye on him to make sure he didn't make any irrational decisions. And he, you could tell as he was looking over his shoulder to see where I was. Once he realized I wasn't giving him the attention that he may have been asking for at that time, he turned around and came back to the home.
Okay. Have you had any luck with the music playlist?
The music playlist is a help. It doesn't usually get him out of his triggered mindset when he is upset, but it does help him kind of when we get into the car and he's uncomfortable or he isn't feeling, say something had happened at school that day and I kind of play some songs that you shared with me from that playlist. It'll brighten his mood up and kind of help him communicate a little bit more effectively.
Gotcha. I don't have any other questions right now.
Ms. Collins?
Yes, Your Honor. Vinny, just to be clear on the record here, my understanding of Niall's diagnosis through Porter Stark, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's actually been diagnosed ADHD, combined type, disruptive mood dysregulation, and selective mutism. Is that your understanding as well?
Correct.
Okay. Now, given your contact with both parents, would you say that they kind of work together or they counteract each other?
I'd say they counteract each other, although there are times where they can work together. More oftentimes it does feel like they are counteracting.
Do they tend to blame each other for Niall's behaviors?
At times there has been a little bit of blame put on the other, yes.
Is one parent more responsible for blaming the other than trying to find a solution?
No.
Niall had told you that dad's abusive to him, I think. Is that correct?
Niall has made comments like that, yes.
You've been in dad's home quite a bit. Have you found any evidence that would support that dad's abusive towards Niall?
No, I have not. And with those comments being made, I have made, observations on his arms, make sure there's no bruising or anything like that. And I have not noticed anything that could suspect abuse.
Have you ever pushed Niall to give you any specifics to justify that statement?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever asked Niall, what do you mean dad abuses you? What did dad specifically do?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. He doesn't elaborate very well. It'll typically be like, if I ask him, what do you mean your dad abuses you? My dad effing hates me. My dad just is a piece of S, POS. But he doesn't usually, he'll say like, my dad beats the shit out of me. But when I ask about, well, tell me when, tell me more about that. He can't further elaborate most of the time, anytime.
Has he ever told you that it's because mom told him that dad does those things?
No.
Does Niall tend to go mute sometimes and just kind of shut down and not talk anymore?
Absolutely.
And do you try to contact mom during crisis situations? If they happen at dad's house, do you generally still contact her?
Yes.
Does she usually answer?
Yes.
Is she willing to come and get Niall? Has that been tried in the past?
For the most part, yes. Unless she's been out of town or she's usually trying to get her boys, whenever there is a crisis occurring.
And has Andy allowed Niall to go to mom in the past during these crisis situations? If that's
Holly, everybody's going through it right now. And we chat and we're friends and we chat to get through it. I'm sorry this topic is triggering you. But I think maybe this might be a good topic. If you know that this topic is triggering you, maybe don't get into chat today. Like Bobby does when he has a rough divorce case. He knows that triggers him. So, but we get each other through the day. And that's just what we do. I mean, we've had heavier cases than this. I know that this is a heavy case. I know that. We all know that. But we're just together to start the day, get through the day, and watch some court videos. And there's cases that I don't even play because they trigger me, and I know I don't want to, do that. This is one of them for you. Oh my gosh, you gifted yourself a membership. Thank you. That's awesome. That's the second time I saw that. We're not laughing at these people. We're just trying to get through the day. We're just trying to get through the crap that's going on in our lives. That's just what we're doing.
an option and he doesn't have to have a medical transport?
Yeah, so there's been times where Andy has asked, Talani, if you're going to come get him, you need to come get him.
What about, we talked a lot about Niall. Do you interact with Xavier and Noah as well?
I just recently added Xavier to my caseload 2 months ago to begin providing services to him as well.
How would you say, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say Niall also, for the first, until recently, until his removal from self, he's also always requested Noah to kind of be a part of sessions too. So I'm familiar with all three of the boys.
So how would you say Xavier and Noah is doing in dad's care?
Good. They haven't, they reported minimal conflicts. And, Xavier has even said that, things have been really good without Niall, but they miss their brother and they're trying to figure out a way to, make that work when he comes back. So that's kind of what my goal with working with Xavier is trying to teach him how to improve family functioning, improve communication skills, especially with Niall when Niall's triggered.
Are the boys on the same weekend schedule, at least since Niall's been with mom?
I'm sorry?
Do the boys, are they the same weekend schedule now that Niall's with mom? Like mom has all three at the same time on her weekend, dad has all three on his weekends?
I am not sure, to be honest. I don't know the exact dynamic of what, my understanding at first it was Wednesdays with mom and then every other weekend with mom. But with the recent decision from his last court date at probation being with mom, it's kind of been all over in my opinion, in my perspective. But
I think right now one parent has Niles and the other parent has the other two, and then they switch. I don't know, friend. So I think like the boys miss their brother, I hear them say. So I think right now they switch. I don't know exactly.
I haven't really asked the parents what their, dynamic is at this time.
Okay, I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Mr. Watson.
Vinny, when you and I had spoke prior, we had talked about, Ms. Collins had mentioned this earlier about fault and blame, and the assignation of the same. In my notes, when we discussed it, you indicated that when there was an assignment of blame, typically mother would blame Andy or self or anyone, but never assumed any blame herself.
Correct. Most of the crisis, yes. And most of the crises, again, I haven't been into Lonnie's home to experience any crisis within her home that, she may have been, the trigger of or anything like that. Most of the, all the crises have either been at self or at dad's house.
So what you had said to Attorney Collins wasn't wholly accurate. Is that correct?
In what regards? I'm sorry. Yeah.
We had talked about assigning fault and how one parent didn't assign fault more than another parent or anything of such of that nature. And in our interview prior to this hearing, you'd indicated that that mom assigned fault to Andy and to self and to other institutions or administrations, but it was never mom's fault, whereas dad on occasion would take it upon himself.
Yeah, I mean, dad has taken blame upon himself. He does take accountability. I think the conversation we were referring to is that, and correct me if I'm wrong. I want to make sure I'm being factual here. But when he got removed from school, I had met with Niall an hour after him getting removed from school. And this isn't the same instance where he got expelled from school, but he got removed from school in a different instance. And I was there, I was at the school and seeing Niall was already triggered. So I tried to implement some de-escalation techniques. Following that, Niall got, mom had to come pick Niall up. We went and had a session. And within that session, Talani had said that she feels like the school isn't abiding by what they promised they're able to. For example, not allowed to go to the reset room or, wasn't being given a recess. That is where that came from. And correct me if I'm wrong. I want to make sure that was the topic of our conversation, was when he got removed from school that day.
It wasn't just that. It was more general about some of the other incidents that had occurred. But it was definitely in relation to the event that occurred on 2/23.
Yeah. And then, also what I had mentioned in that phone call, because I'll be fully transparent, was that Tulani usually does say that, the issue doesn't come from within Niall, it comes from within dad's home. That dad is manipulative and can be an abuser at times.
If that's what mom says. That's not what you said.
No, absolutely no.
Okay. No further questions for this witness, Judge.
Mom, any other questions for this witness?
Vinny, have you ever seen any of the boys get physical with their dad?
Yes.
And have you heard how the boys talk to their dad?
Yes.
Can you describe how they talk to their dad?
In times of crisis, it's, especially
right, that's what I was talking about. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, even sometimes outside of crisis, they have a funny way of talking to dad at times. But within crisis, in the times that I've seen them kind of physically attack dad, was when the police were present with Niall and they felt as if dad should be the one handling the situation, not calling police. Again, this was the situation that involved the knife being pulled. So I was the one that made the decision to call the police, but the boys took it as, on their dad. So Noah was throwing books across the room, trying to find, ways to attack his dad. Police were intervening and present with all parties involved, so all boys and dad. And dad was just standing there kind of, just taking it, I should say. And the boys were cursing him out, telling him he needs to be an effing man and handle this on his own. And that, they were throwing books at him and telling him, like, you're the one that needs to go to jail. You're a POS. I effing hate you. Language like that.
Have you ever shown up to Andy's house and him and the boys are just there by themselves?
Not that I can recall, no.
Had the boys made you aware of instances like that?
Yes. Though there was a time where, and the way this is how Niall put it, Niall got dropped off at dad's house. Dad was not home. So Niall had to call the police in order to get dad to come home. That was how Niall had explained it to me.
I'm confused.
That was the instance. So it's
no, I'm talking about as far as, I'm sorry, I'm talking about as far as like when there is crisis in the home and that, dad just up and leaves the boys there by themselves. That's what I'm
So dad has walked outside in the times that I have been there. Dad has walked outside. Dad hasn't gotten in the times that I've been there. Dad has not gotten in his car and driven away. But there are times where dad has needed to step outside. Yes.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Ms. Collins, any other questions?
Just one. The statements that the children had made to dad, like be a man, deal with it, don't contact the police, that this, just negative statements here. Are those consistent with mom's perception on this, that police should not be called? They just need to deal with it. Don't ask for professional help.
I'm not sure because mom doesn't speak like that to me. So I can't speculate and say that that's how she talks to the boys because I'm not there at her house.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Vinny, when the incident you spoke of where Niall told you that he had been dropped off and father wasn't there, did he happen to mention who dropped him off?
Yes, it was mom.
Okay. So mother dropped him off to a house where no one was there.
I wasn't there to confirm, but that's what is in our story.
But that was the story conveyed to you by Niall.
Correct.
Okay. But I don't have any other questions, Judge.
Mom, any other questions?
No further questions.
Ms. Collins, any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
Judge, we don't have much time here left.
We actually do have space this afternoon.
Oh, do we?
We do. We had some things open up and I can go after lunch and try to get this done.
Okay.
So who do you have left online? Ms. Collins?
Well, I have to get going here in about 10 minutes for a hearing in Stark County, but I don't know if you're okay excusing me or if you wanted me on here.
Okay. Who do you have left?
Well, I have, sorry, Your Honor. I have a Victoria Reader. She works for Porter
Vinny did a
Star.
great job.
I just have, it's minimal questions.
Let's try to get her done then. Is she online?
Yes. Yeah, she's been waiting this entire time.
All right, ma'am. Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Victoria, you go by Tori, is that correct?
I do.
Okay. Do you prefer Tori?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
And what's your last name, ma'am?
I'm sorry.
Reader.
And how do you spell that?
R-E-D as in dog, A-R.
Thank you. Mr. Watson, you may ask your questions.
Thank you. Apologies, Your Honor.
Hi, Bryden.
What is your background?
I am a master's level social worker and a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Indiana.
Okay. And how long have you been working in a school setting?
I've been working in the school setting since 2013 and in my current role since the 2023-2024 school year.
Okay. And you've had, so what is your job? What do you do there at Porter?
I'm the school therapist from Porter Stark who is positioned at Self School, and I provide individual therapy services to the students that are enrolled in the Success program.
And so, but truth be told, you haven't had a lot of independent sessions with Niall, is that correct?
No, not with Niall due to his attendance issues. Correct.
Okay. He simply hasn't been there enough for you to meet with him?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You have participated in a couple of meetings, team meetings, is that correct?
Yes, part of my role as the school therapist is to participate in team meetings for the clients that we have in the Success program, as well as to engage in collateral contact with the school administrators and school staff members and the members of the treatment teams involved.
Based on these team meetings and your interaction, did are you aware of mother's position in regard to adhering to the medical professionals' requests or recommendations about inpatient treatment?
I am.
Okay. And what is that?
There have been several times that Niall has been recommended by psychiatrists to be admitted to inpatient hospitalization in order to stabilize homicidal or suicidal ideation or aggression, and mother has declined.
Were one of these doctors Dr. Khatib?
Yes.
And did Dr. Khatib feel that he should return to school?
She did not. She felt that he had not received the recommended level of treatment in order to return to school.
And is it your understanding that she's declined that in person?
Yes.
On more than one occasion?
Correct.
And that also includes the Michiana behavioral health instance. Are you aware of that?
That instance was prior to the most recent instances where Niall was placed at Michiana BHC for acute stabilization and was discharged against medical advice, well, taken out of treatment by mom against medical advice after 3 days.
So based on, and this is what we had talked about, based on your knowledge and your records, mother has maintained that there's much difference in behavior at dad's house and mom's house with Niall. You wouldn't be at the house, but when father has had the child and when mother has had the child, have you observed any changes in regards to Niall, how he's behaved in his outbursts or behaviors?
Niall's behavior at school did not change. By the time that he was recommended and referred to the crisis center in February, it had gotten worse in terms of the aggression level towards school staff and homicidal ideation, expression of homicidal ideation, as well as his suicidal ideation and gestures also were worse that time than had been seen itself previously.
Okay. So if someone were to ask you about the difference in his behavior when at dad's versus when at mom's, you would respond that there was or wasn't any difference?
There was an escalation at school in terms of those acting out behaviors in relation to when Niall was upset at school.
Okay. So in some of the instances with Niall, his behavior has been so extreme that there's no assessment that's even put out. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Not an in-school assessment. At self, if a child is engaging in suicidal ideation or expression of suicidal ideation or homicidal ideation, or engaging in gesturing of suicide, or extremely aggressive physical behaviors, there's various levels of assessments that may be done. Sometimes the school administrators will ask myself or the school services specialist from Porter Stark to complete an on-site assessment to determine if a send out to the crisis center would be beneficial. And other times, if the behavior or the statements are significant enough, then the self will just determine that the crisis center is required without needing that assessment, in which case they will just provide us with collateral information to send the referral on to the crisis center.
And has that happened several times with Niall?
It has. Most recently, February 23rd was the most recent time.
But there have been other incidents?
There have been other incidents where he's had to go to the crisis center, yes. From school.
Wasn't there. No, no, I'll pass by this judge.
Mom, do you have any questions for this witness?
Correct me if I'm wrong. So this is I just having conversations with Mrs. Rogers and Mrs. Woods. But from the time from 1/29 to obviously the 2/23 was the last day that he was at school. But during that time that he's been there in school, I guess maybe I'm just being told maybe two different things. Was that it was my understanding, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, was that Niall did not have any violent. He didn't get violent whatsoever during that time until the 23rd, when the police were called. I know that there was one time
I would have to go back and look at records during that time. There was a frequency of elopements, and there were instances where he was in the outside of the building, had eloped from the building, and were throwing chunks of ice at cars and hitting staff with sticks. But I don't know the exact dates of those instances in January.
Well, I don't know if it was January, because he just was in school 2 days in January when I had him.
Is that a question, Judge?
It's not a question. But do you have any other questions?
No, I don't have any other questions.
Ms. Collins, did you have any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Any others? Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Here's what I'm going to do, since I think Ms. Collins has been in this case. I want her to be here for the remainder of any custody decisions or issues. So she's got to be in court. I'm going to let her go today, but I'm going to keep you guys here long enough
Here we
to
go,
at least
guys.
get you divorced and get the bifurcation part out of the way, because I don't think Ms. Collins has anything to say about whether you're married or not. Her only issue is the best interest of the kids as a GAL. So Ms. Collins, any problem with the court proceeding in that fashion?
No, Your Honor.
Then I will be in touch. My staff will be in touch with you so we can get enough time to be able to complete the issues of any custody that goes on. As far as, and before, so you can be excused, Ms. Collins.
Right.
We'll coordinate with you. As far as the divorce goes, are there any property issues still remaining? Any other issues that are out there?
Judge, it's there's actually orders where both parties state on the record that they don't have any property, no assets, no debts.
So it's just a matter of finalizing the divorce, leaving open the issue of parenting time, custody, support, and all of that.
Yes, and like I said today, I guess we will not be able to, but we're hoping to address the legal custody issue.
We're out of time to do that with Ms. Collins, and I've had JLs who have stayed through hearings actually alter parts of their recommendation after hearing evidence that they hadn't heard before, and she's been in it long enough. I want to make sure she hears all the evidence before we move forward. So each of the parties, raise both of your right hands. Do each of you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, ma'am?
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Ma'am, tell me your full legal name.
Who, me? I'm sorry. Tulani Danielle Reyna.
And ma'am, you're currently married to Andrew Reyna,
Yes.
and you have been pending a divorce now for approximately 11 years.
Maybe 9 in June.
This is 9.
Yeah.
I thought it was filed in 2015. So,
Well, it was a legal separation. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. Have you, at the time this was filed, had you been a resident of the state of Indiana for at least 6 months?
Yes.
Had you been a resident of LaPorte County for at least 3 months?
Yes.
Is your marriage irretrievably broken, meaning you guys aren't going to be able to go through some marriage counseling and get back together at this point?
No, we've done all that. Nope.
It's all broken.
Yes.
You're done. Reserving the issue of child custody, parenting time support, have all your other issues been resolved as far as, are there any marital assets that still remain that need to be divided?
No.
Everything that you have should be yours?
Yes.
Everything that he has should be his?
Yes.
Same question when it comes to marital debts. Are there any marital debts that still need to be paid or divided?
No.
Any debts in your name should be yours?
Any debts what?
Any debts that are in your name alone should be yours? And any debts that are in his name alone should be his? Correct.
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
Are you going to change your name?
Yes.
And what is your name going to become?
It's back to my maiden name, which is Overton.
So how do you spell the last name?
Overton.
And that's the name that you want changed with the finalization of your divorce today?
Is that, can I pick another name I can go by or something?
Huh?
I said, is there like another name I can pick or something?
Well, I just have to ask so that it's clear on the record, so when it goes in the order, you don't come later and say, no, I was keeping Raina. So,
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, I'll go back to my maiden name. I'm sorry.
and are you currently pregnant?
No,
And you and Andrew have not adopted any children other than the ones we've been dealing with. There's no other children out there that are yours together.
no, correct.
All right, let me go to Dad. Tell me your full legal name.
Andrew Ryan Rayna.
You heard the questions I asked your wife.
Yes,
Do you agree with those answers?
yes,
You are currently still reserving issues of child parenting time, custody, support, but all the other issues have been resolved as far as property.
correct,
You would agree your marriage is irretrievably broken.
correct,
You agreed at the time it was filed that one of you were a resident of the state of Indiana for 6 months and LaPorte County for 3 months.
correct.
And you agree you haven't adopted any other children other than the children that we're arguing about today. There are no other children out there.
No other children.
But any other issues for the dissolution that I haven't talked about that we need to talk about today as far as just the marriage and the property?
It should be within that, what we're discussing.
There's no, I forgot to ask, there's no pensions or other types of bank accounts or anything else that need to be divided? Go back to Mom. You agree there's no pensions or other types of savings or retirement accounts or bank accounts that need?
Mom said at the beginning that the divorce is taking longer than she was married to him. They had 3 kids. So I'm just guessing they were married for about 6 years. That's a guess.
To be divided. You've done that stuff already.
Yeah, everything's done.
Okay. Mr. Watson, is there any questions I missed as far as the
Before they
actual
were
divorce
separated.
part?
No,
They're still married.
I think the prior order is pretty clear. It said all debts and assets and
Okay.
so we were just pertaining to everything as it relates to the children.
Then I will grant that relief. Find the two of you should be separate and individual people today. The dissolution is granted as to your actual marriage together and your property division, reserving all issues with the children. So Mr. Watson, you can put that in a form of order. And then we're going to have to get together with Ms. Collins and get Ms. Overton now on the phone and Mr. Watson on the phone to get another date because I got to coordinate it with Ms. Collins, and to get that, it takes a while. So we will be in touch to get you guys. I'm going to show for the record that we bifurcated and granted your dissolution today, reserving all issues regarding children. The time elapsed without us being present, able to complete the case while we're present today, and we'll be in touch. I think, can we do this in 2 more hours, or how many more witnesses do you have?
Well, because of what we had just talked about and trying to just address the matter of the legal custody, I didn't really think, other than maybe speaking to my client and some, I'm sorry, some Miss.
So you've got just the parties left.
Yeah, but that was just to that specific issue. I don't know how the court's going to want to now address that because we
No, Bren. No.
we stipulated to addressing the bifurcation and including the joint legal.
All we're going to be talking about is children, joint legal custody, residential custody, parenting time, and support next time. So
Sure. I know I guess we had already put on almost all the evidence for legal. I guess it's
all I'm asking is, can we do this in 2 or 3 hours? 3? How many witnesses do you think you're going to call, Mom?
Probably 2.
Let's just try to find 3 hours. What I don't want to do is get to the point where we're at 2 hours again and we're not done, and then we've got to come back. So
I got you.
I'll instruct my staff to contact each of you. Make sure that you leave your phone number and email address before you go so we can call and coordinate the next hearing with you, okay?
Okay.
so. Judge, as it pertains to the issue of legal custody, though, how much more are you going to want to hear of this? Because there's going to be a lot of overlap in that.
I'm going to hear whatever you guys present, and I'm going to make a decision. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Your contact information.
And that was it. Then he shut the feed off. It's over. So they got divorced. After 11 years. Separation. They're finally divorced. Crazy. All right. We're going to keep an eye on that. Don't worry. I'm sure they're going to have another hearing soon, only because of the severity of the needs of the children. They're gonna be back in front of this judge pretty soon. So this is one of the ones we're just gonna keep an eye on. I get that court every day, so I won't miss it. Well, guys, I'll see you in a couple hours. Thank you so much for coming out today. I really, really appreciate it. Tonight, not a long trial. Tonight's just gonna be short clips. All right. Be good today. Be safe today. Stay away from the fires. And I will see you all soon. Bye, guys.
Well, I thought I'd write a happy song. I found a chat room where I belong. You don't know how much it means to me. With such a groove, I'm less lonely. Oh, Kathy's the creator. She's leading the way. At Court Vibes, we laugh and we stay. Her smile shines bright. She's got that grace. Come join the fun. It's a welcome and play. I can count on distraction from my pain, 'cause this creator takes you there and back again. Kathy is the heart here, always in stride. Her work is hard, but her joy she can't hide.